The hot topic in America right now is defunding the police. What does that look like, and what will it bring for us as citizens? Racism, it is on the table. It is not going away right now. It is the discussion of America. And as well today, a little bit turn of things, we look to the Babylon Bee to see what they got to say about current issues. I'm Chris, that's Micah, and this is the Daily Radical.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Radical. We are so pumped that you have joined us once again for another episode. However you're watching, however you're listening, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, thank you for putting us in your podcast rotation. If you have not yet followed us on Spotify, be sure to do so. And as well, make sure to subscribe and like this video on the YouTube. We are coming out with new content every week, handling some of the biggest issues, talking about God, culture, faith, everything in between. So thank you for making us a part of your podcast rotation. Chris, what is going on, man?
Another day in paradise, my friend. Another day in paradise. I mean, I'm doing great. Baby's doing well, eating, sleeping, growing. A little update for those who know that just had kids. They're great. They're thriving, man. They're thriving, man.
That's great. Are you getting any sleep? Are you getting any sleep at night right now?
No. I've been taking the later shifts for my wife to sleep. We're trying to figure it out. They're on this really, really tight feeding schedule. So I've been trying to be super dad, but getting a little bit fried. But you know what, man? It's part of it. I just embrace it as just the whole overall parenting. So it's just where I'm at. But I definitely make sure that I'm carving time out of my busy dad schedule to make sure that we are keeping our people updated and having our discussions here at the Daily Radical. And man, there is a lot to talk about right now. There is a lot going on.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an absolute crazy time.
Wow.
We still have protests. Man. We have still protests going on. Yep. The world's going nuts. They're talking about, and as a matter of fact, this week, Minneapolis, Minnesota has voted to get rid of the police department. What in the world? Defund the police. I saw a picture somewhere in like New York where they're painting on the sidewalk to defund the city police officers.
I know, man.
And it's crazy. What are we talking about right now? Like, what's going on?
Let's just take that thought for a minute there. Let's just talk this thought for a minute. And, for those of you listening, we talked about in the beginning, like we're super pumped. We're actually really pumped. I know I'm taking a step backwards here, but we're really pumped every week to talk about what's going on. A lot of you guys have given some great feedback, discussions, hitting us up. And so keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming. And because we're in the same place you are. And you're sitting there right now listening, and we're with you in this conversation. And I want us all to think right now. Just think very basic.
Yeah.
No cops. Let's just think where you're at right now, whether you live in a hot zone, whether it's high crime, not high crime. Here for us here in Stockton, it's a little more aggressive. So I can't think of no police, but just think of that idea, the idea of we're gonna defund the police and no police force.
Yeah. Like, who are you going to call if someone like breaks in your house, maybe late at night or something, you hear a window smash? What do? No police officers? Like, what are you like? What's wrong with you?
Well, they have a couple points that they're going to make of how they're going to handle it. I know we could jump into the conversation right now, but they when I say they, this birthed out of a very kind of radical left idea group, because even in this discussion, those of you listening and stuff I've read and now you've read too, that even they've talked about some of the more conservative Democrats are being like, hey, wait a minute, maybe let's not defund them, maybe some reforming, but to completely pull away. So it's definitely a very extreme idea, and it's pretty unanimous, those who see it clearly. Like this, you're talking about a very, very aggressive change here. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's from my perspective, it's an overreaction, right?
Yep.
It's one of those knee-jerk reactions to culture, and it's like, and I think we're in a place in our politics right now where people are just trying to get who can get crazier, right? Who can get stupider, like who can get like I have the craziest idea. Yeah, we're not
You know,
going to defund the police. We're going to destroy the
dude,
police. Like
it reminds me. You chill with the bros, and you're like, no, bro. I'm gonna jump like 10 feet higher.
it's like
No,
someone's
bro. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, let's see how far we can push this thing. And we're talking about let's get rid of the police.
The Democrats are like your friend that takes everything too far. It's like, you're joking around or whatever, and they just go like the step further. You ever hung out with someone that, you're just like goofing off, maybe when you're like a teenager or something like that, because we
Yeah.
don't do this stuff anymore anyway, but because, we're grown up now. But,
Yeah.
but you're a kid, it's like you're having fun, doing something silly, but then there's one friend that just takes it like, just goes and smashes the mailbox. Like, what is wrong with you? Were you dropped on your head as a child? What is wrong with you? That's the Democratic Party at this point. Like, they've taken
Yeah.
everything
It's
to the extreme.
it's
You know
the
what I mean?
ADHD kid.
Dude,
Is that idiot? Is the ADHD kid, and he's drank a 12 pack of Mountain Dew.
at summer camp. They're at youth camp
Yeah, oh, actually,
on Mountain Dew.
I give him. We sell rock stars at youth camp.
Rock. Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's great.
That should
Anyway,
be. Doesn't
but
that
yeah,
kill kids though?
not on my watch yet. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm that person that I keep going until something really bad happens, and I'm like, oops.
Chris is the kid. Chris is
Yeah.
the friend. That's what I'm trying to say right now.
You know
Chris
what?
is the guy.
You begin to describe that person, I'm like sinking lower in my seat, like,
got-
yeah, who's
It
that
got super
jerk?
quiet. It got super quiet on the other end of the podcast.
But yeah, this is extreme, man. This is definitely like an extreme. I
Well,
mean,
it's stupid.
everybody's like jaws drop, like, whoa, this is actually
I'm
happening.
sorry. I'm sorry. It's stupid. I mean, I'm sorry for my language. I apologize. But I read stuff like
Oh,
that.
Mike, I love you, bro. Sorry
the
for my
dumbest
language. I said stupid. You're such a good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Micah Johnson.
Well, we're
class
all
act.
whatever.
I'm like,
There's no other
let your
word
daughter
to
hear this
describe.
podcast. Your daughter cannot hear this podcast.
This
now.
is censored for adults
Censored.
only.
Bleep.
Children, turn this
we'll
off
put the
right
bleeps
now.
later.
If you ever had like one of those things, remember like that game, the board game Taboo? I think it was
Yes.
Taboo, and you had they had a little buzzer in there. Well, like, have you ever just like buzz, like beeped someone? Just they're just talking like a preacher or something. You're like, beep.
No, dude. So on my spare time, which I don't have much of now, look up unnecessary bleeps. I know, but look up on YouTube unnecessary
sounds
bleeps,
funny.
and again, I might get in trouble with, right? But I mean, they take the most basic stuff. But believe it or not, Mike, I don't have it right now. I used to have this app. You can get an app that
Like a
was the bleep button.
Bleep button.
The
I might
bleep
download
button.
that like
And
right
so
now.
I'll probably download talking this show. But anyway,
Like,
yeah.
You're like
So-
talking about something completely random. Just beep, like sounds like you're cursing up a storm or something like that.
And
That's
this is
funny.
it's all about the timing. Actually, I've actually I got a friend of mine. Okay. I'll be real. He preached this message, and we joke about it. And
Please
I've
be
been
real.
wanting to get that message and put some unnecessary beliefs in there. Just I won't say who it is, but
Well, on the real,
Yeah.
real. I don't know if the young people still say that on the real. But
just because we said it now, they won't say it anymore.
yeah, exactly. But there are some preachers that do need some bleeps. I think when you start talking about certain topics, it's like, yeah, that should have been bleeped out. There's, I don't
You
wanna say that.
ever hear someone start to talk about something, you're like in your head, like start cringing, like please don't go any further.
Oh no, for sure. And my daughter,
Like stumbling over their words. That
when my
you're about to
daughter's
offend
listening to like the
everybody.
preaching, like they're listening to the preaching, and it's like, they start talking about, oh, I don't know.
Hey, bro.
They start talking about. That's more like of a.
That's
I
it. What
don't
was
care what you think. No, that's not loud enough.
that? It's on the mic, bro. It's on the mic. Okay,
I know, but you. Oh.
Hey, you better clean up your act. Right. You better get your straight, or I get. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's dumb.
What was that, Mike?
Anyway, the whole
Mike, are you
point.
serious, bro? Come on, man. Come on. There's children that could be potentially. Okay, my bad. My bad.
Oh,
See,
my goodness.
all this like negativity has pushed me over the edge.
There's no other
I'm just like,
words
you know
to
what?
describe.
It right now. You know what I mean? So
There's no other words to describe what's going on in the world other than
Morse code, SOS, SOS from this life. Okay. Yes, let's go back to
So here's the
defunding.
deal. I don't know. Okay. Here's the deal. This is what I'm going to say.
Say it.
I think that in America, the United States of America, I think it is extremely important that the government. First of all, I don't like the government. I've never liked the government. I think that less of the government is good.
Hmm. True
In almost
conservative.
everything. The only thing I like the government for is to protect us. Go to
Yep.
war, protection,
And
safety,
build our roads.
basically, right?
Well,
And
really, basically the American infrastructure. And again, I'm it's very simplistic, but I mean, they're doing way too much.
well, to keep us safe, that's the government, right?
Hmm.
And so you want the government to be big enough to protect you. However, I don't want the government so big that it can take complete control of
Yeah,
me. So,
yeah,
like what we've talked about before on the show, the reason for the Second Amendment wasn't to protect necessarily you from like your fellow citizens from a mass gunman. The reason for the Second Amendment was so that you can protect yourself against tyranny of the
yeah,
government.
yeah, yeah.
And so for me, that's the picture I have of the federal government. I
Hmm.
want it big enough to protect me, but not big enough to control me. I want it to be limited. So there needs to be a check and balance system, and that's why
Yeah,
we have the three
yeah,
branches of government. The same thing should be said about police. And here's the truth, Chris. Like I'm not against the protests that people walking down to City Hall and demanding that
yeah,
police do better. Because for me, this whole thing is not about racism. It's not. That's not about racism. Which
yeah,
we could talk about that. It's not about racism. It's definitely not about systemic racism because that is not a thing
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
What it is about, however, is police brutality and
yeah.
police overstepping their boundaries
Hmm.
and not doing. And you say, well, it was one cop. It was four cops in Minnesota. It's true. However, doesn't the scripture say something about a little leaven, leaveneth the whole lump?
Yeah.
I think that we need to. Now, I'm not saying that they all are to blame.
Mm-mm.
What I am saying is kind of like how like one kid can ruin the trip for something. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
one person can do something, and it messes it up for everybody.
yeah.
That's kind of where they're at, and it's not that they all deserve to be punished or defunded. I do think though that people marching and peacefully protesting, that is the check on the government. That's the
Well,
check on the law
it's
enforcement
these.
officers.
When I see protests, like what's the point of protest? It's not to what we've seen of protests. And again, we said last episode. I'll say it again. There were people who came and hijacked the peaceful
Right.
protest. Anarchists, just destruction. So all that looting you saw, I 100% know that wasn't the people who came out with a genuine, voice to cry out. So the protest is the people banding together, basically in one voice, to speak out to their government, local government, to
Right.
show them, hey, listen, these certain laws are in place, or this certain system is going on. We as the people collectively come together, and we are speaking our voice about this. Hear
Right.
us. And the way it's supposed to work is that the senators, or the local government, or just they hear the cries of the people, they hear what's going on, they go back in their chambers or wherever, and they begin to reanalyze and look at what they're doing and seeing, and they begin to investigate, look into it, quickly, not 10 years. But
Right.
so the protest is the people speaking out against something, and they should be heard. It
Yep.
should be considered, and as you said, so accurately, it's like, hey, listen, we're here in the streets, we're seeing this firsthand, we're letting you know there's something wrong here. We need you guys
Yeah.
to look into this and begin to
Yeah.
make some changes.
Right.
And so that's what, again, protest is supposed to be, in a perfect society. And I believe and that does still happen. There's genuine people in our government that are hearing the voice of the people. I mean, that's your job as a public servant, is to
Right.
serve the people. So protest and be heard, and then take the next step. So, something should be said. If not, then things will always remain the same. So, I mean, we do need protest, and so that's what it's supposed to
You.
work. We've gotten really, the idea of protest has taken a whole different direction in this we're
Yeah.
seeing right now.
Well, I think, yeah, for sure, it's taken a different direction. But I think the true protesting has been drowned out
Yep.
drown out by the crazy people. And I think some people just don't realize how important that their voice is, and they should be allowed. And of course, I think it's a mixture of things. I was watching some protests
Yeah.
today, and it was like, I mean, these people are just out there having a party. I mean, they're dancing, they're
Did
singing,
you see?
there's
Was it one
music.
when the guy's on the rooftop dancing around, him and his buddy?
No, I just saw
Yeah,
just
I
a
know.
number of different ones. They're out there dancing and stuff. People are just having fun. Like on some point, on some level, this is just an excuse to get out of the house because they've been trapped in the house for the last 3 months.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, man.
it's just
This is less this is less protest, but more like a block party.
that's it, man. I mean, none of them are socially distancing.
Yeah.
Some of them have face masks on, but they're just out there partying it
Yeah.
up. And
Yeah.
and I saw an article today. I don't remember. Probably it was Fox News. I don't remember where I saw it, but in California, they said they've seen an outbreak in California in Napa Valley, and
Ooh.
they saw it not because they saw it because of they attributed it to Memorial Day. And so what's funny is that it
Ooh.
catches up, right? It takes a few weeks. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of outbreaks happen
Oh my
because of
gosh,
this.
man.
It's just going to happen. There's not going to be any way around it.
So
But
what you're saying is that these radical protests could potentially set us back. All the
oh,
progress we've made thus far,
who knows? Who knows? I mean,
that's crazy,
I
man.
give
That's
up trying
true.
to.
That's true.
I give up trying to figure out the coronavirus at this point. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows what it's about
I,
or
I
anything.
you don't even
Uh,
hear about you don't even hear about it anymore. Well,
well, I
you do.
mean,
Maybe you do. I don't know.
people are still dying. The numbers are still there. It's
I
not as bad as
know.
we thought it was. So that's a good thing. But yeah, it's unfortunately most of us are still under lockdown.
Yeah,
Going back to the point
playing it
though,
smart.
yeah, going back to the point though about the police, and this is something that you should keep in mind, and everyone listening, and that we all should keep in mind is that don't believe either side because
Mm,
you watch one video or read one article and it's, oh, these protesters are all Antifa, they're all
yeah.
spitting and throwing bricks, and there are those doing that.
Yeah.
But then you watch the other side and saw these police officers are shooting rubber bullets and gassing or
Yeah.
peaceful protesters, and there is some of that too. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't believe either side. You have to take a balanced approach to it. And one thing though that I think is at the heart of this thing is obviously an overreaction, but I think that protesting uh, to keep the police in check is a good thing. And if we get laws passed, and I think this is where we need to focus our attention, laws that ensure more responsibility or more onus on the police officers, I think that's a win personally,
Mm,
because I think that who's the responsible party here?
yeah.
Who is the person that needs to be held more responsible or accountable? And to me, I think it's the person with the gun. I think it's the person with the power. I think police officers by default need to be held to a higher standard. I think that you have to, if you have the power to put someone in handcuffs and detain them for no reason, like they
So
can walk up and put you in handcuffs for no reason other than they thought or they were
yeah.
worried or they, I think the onus is on you, on that person, to have the higher standard. And I think
Now with that, you saying that, I mean, I think saying that, and again, I agree, that obviously you hold the higher power, but I mean, I guess I'm trying to think like, are we saying this because of, let's count over the past, couple years, we're talking about, these instances. We could basically count them, the ones that made the headlines,
yeah,
So are we saying like, do we think there is a problem in our current police force nationwide? Do we think there is, or this kind of a statement that we could say basically like just regardless of what's going on. Hey, yeah, our police need to be held to a higher standard. Our
yes,
police need to do a better job. Like we could say that that's something I feel we could say basically whether it's now or 5 years from now.
yeah.
Are we so? Okay, yeah, that's true, but I think like do are we saying that do we see a consistent problem with our police overall, or we just have a few bad instances
Well,
that seem to kind of project like, oh, well let's look into this because maybe maybe we have bigger problems here. I mean, they do have internal affairs to investigate, inside, kind of police
Well,
function, unless that's been completely, corrupt as
so
well, I
okay,
guess.
so what I would say to that is this: that I'm not suggesting that there's a systemic problem with police brutality. However, uh, and it should be noted that they have millions of encounters with people every single day.
Yeah.
The problems that I see aren't like with I mean, obviously George Floyd was terrible. That's a problem. That's a problem. Like that's
Hmm.
but that I think is the aberration. That's the exception. That people dying unarmed in police custody, that's a rare occasion, a rare thing.
Yes. Yes.
However, what I'm talking about is people being arrested, people being detained for no reason at all.
Hmm.
And I don't know what the numbers are because I don't think they actually record these numbers, and that's
Yeah.
part of the problem here.
Yeah.
I'm with the group that says that I don't think that racism is systemic, as I mentioned last week. But I think, though, again, that police should be held to a higher standard. You should not be able to put anyone in handcuffs unless you have a good reason for it.
Hmm.
And if you should never take your gun out unless you have a good reason for it. To hold someone at gunpoint, that's a serious thing. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think this happens too often. You say, well, how do you know that? I know that it happens to a lot of people. I
Hmm.
don't have a number for it. Someone say, well, you don't have a number for it, then you can't, fine. You could argue that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think that it's calculated, and I could be wrong. If someone out there that knows the study, show it to me. But I don't think it's calculated how many times a gun is unholstered. I know every time a gun is discharged, they
Yeah.
have a record. But how many times is it unholstered? How many
Yeah.
times is someone put in handcuffs, not just arrested?
Hmm.
Because you can be detained without being arrested. Being
Yeah.
arrested is different, and that's what people don't realize that. And it's like, well, how many times, like, you got handcuffs put on you, must have did something wrong. No, I've been in handcuffs for doing nothing. I've had a gun pointed at me by a
Hmm.
cop for doing nothing. So there is a certain level of frustration, I think, in the minority community, the black community in particular. And I think that although there's not like evidence of this, and I think that the police should be under, how would I say, they should be held to the higher standard.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're the ones with the guns. They're the ones with the authority,
Yeah.
ultimately. But what does that mean? What does that look like? It doesn't look like defunding the police. It doesn't look like abolishing them. I can say that for sure.
Yeah.
The stupidity of this is that you do that, what, like, you're hurting the very communities that want and need this, not the richer communities that have the gated communities. You're hurting the poor
Yeah.
communities. Like,
They're
that's the
and
ridiculous
yeah, I
part.
was reading an article and they're hitting on this very point that the rich community will basically pay for private security, so they're protected. Um, Middle class is kind of left, to themselves, and then the poor is almost defenseless. Who's going to come and a call here? And if something happens, and again, we live in a place where we live in there's a lot of poor people in town we live in Stockton, a lot of violence. And so the cops are, I know a couple police officers as well. They're constantly being called for, a whole list of things
Yeah.
that it could be that if they have a smaller police force that are stretched thin and can
Right.
make all these calls. A couple of things I want to bring out that I thought interesting was kind of the conversation of how will it look disbanding this. Some say those trying to make it not sound as drastic, maybe soften it up. They're saying disbanding doesn't necessarily mean completely doing away with police. They say certain police functions can be handled by different departments, and so this is part of the plan. Is that listen, some of these issues that the cops have primarily taken care of with other departments that can handle them. Example: fire department, for instance, may be the ones to deal with drug overdose calls. Mental health professionals could respond to distress calls more effectively. Unarmed, concerned community members can be trained to monitor the streets. I really never saw that one. Um, and the money diverted from the police departments may then be allotted towards social and youth programs, health issues, and job job creation efforts. So this is part of their discussion. This is part of their solution. This is what we're going to do. I mean, let me say that part again. Unarmed, concerned community members can train to be monitored the streets. Dude, you're going to be eating for breakfast.
So basically, they want mall cops in their neighborhood.
Basically. And so here are the fire department's going out there dealing with drug overdoses, okay, which happens. They'll be out there, I mean, depends
Which
on your area.
basically that happens anyway, right? Doesn't the EMT and the
Yes,
fire department go?
yeah. And then mental health professionals could respond to distress calls more effectively. So they say could respond. So they're, again, kind of playing this idea.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
It's built on sticks, man. It's like built on toothpicks, man.
First of all,
so shaky.
Well, this is all pandering. This is pandering.
Yeah.
Because what they're saying is, to not defund, they're just trying to divert funding away, right? To not abolish it.
Yeah.
So not take it away. It's like, none of that's going to matter because once you see crime rates starting to rise, it's not going to work. They're going to end up either bringing those jobs or the cops back in, or they're going to send in the sheriff's office or the however, the county sheriff or the state patrol. Somehow they're going to. It's all pandering to voters at this point. No one is seriously considering, even in Minneapolis where they voted to do this, they had the mayor up there and they're like, will you commit? We want no more police, whatever. And it's like, will you commit? And he's like, oh, no.
They shouted him out of there. Shouted him out of here. It's like.
And so I think what you're seeing is a lot of pandering to this left wing crazy mob. And it's just not, I again, going back to what I originally said about, I think it's good to keep that check and balance system, right? Yeah. But let's just be clear, you need a balance. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's a solution. I don't think it's a solution.
I just you think about no police. We're talking about defunding.
Well, it's not going to happen.
It won't. I know. But just the fact that we're even having this discussion, and the fact that some of these places are doing that. Now I know. Over in New York City, he's talking about de Blasio's talking about diverting funding from the NYPD to directly to youth initiatives and social services.
Pandering, that's all it is.
Again, I think we've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. Let's go back to Christians. What do we think here? Whether it's Black, whether it's Hispanic, any race.
Yeah.
You have to go back to the family structure.
Yep.
You go back to the family. That is a solution. God put the plan together. I know some groups hack the nuclear family. Kind of dogging that. In efforts.
What is that nuclear family?
Well, basically, mother, father, two kids. The nuclear family. So where it's this. So if a single mother, raising kids, or grandma, grandpa raising kids. The nuclear family is basically a mom and dad together, two kids, white picket fence type deal. And so I can look at the full definition. Anyway,
it's basically a normal family. Basically.
Yeah, basically a normal family, right? So, and again, I understand that again throughout history there's been challenges, but let's go back to God. What do we do? It's families working to stay together. And the bigger issue is just the brokenness of the home, Yeah. And, if they are going to do social services, if they're going to go out there and begin to work with these people, I believe if you have a history of abuse, a history of maybe your father walked out, or even the mother in some cases, let's work to kind of heal those wounds and move on. I mean, again, going back to how do we combat this? How do we combat this? Christians, how you combat this is working on your marriages, raising your kids, and then in your community be an example of that. And then those who see around you who could be struggling, who could be in this place, to reach out and to strive to keep families together. So again, I go back to this, the stronger the family is, the stronger foundation, and thus, could turn into this. Now, is there exceptions to that? Of course. There's some incredibly strong individuals that have raised some incredibly strong people out there. But we can't we can't look to a solution, it kind of goes back to, hey, it's really following the pattern that God has for us. I know it's
Yeah.
not a popular answer, but again,
Well, no, it's true. It's
it's
absolutely
true.
true.
It's true.
It's a matter of culture, and this is I mentioned this last week, and I said it again today. I don't believe in systemic racism. I don't think it's a
Hmm.
problem in America today,
Yeah.
and that's the movement right now.
Yeah.
So you have Black Lives Matter, which again, is there anyone out there saying that Black lives don't matter? Like that's I still haven't heard that yet. That's the
Yeah.
implication. That's what
Yeah.
everyone. And so you can't say anything else. You can't say all lives matter, because if you say that, then you're trying to say, like, you're trying to divert attention away from the
Yeah.
systemic racism issue. The
See
problem is that
that
it's just
line
not
there,
there.
that line, if saying that line, all lives matter, has become nowadays like terms of termination, and just that's saying that all lives matter. Just anyway,
Yeah, it'll get you canceled
I get you canceled
nowadays.
anyway. Anyway, I mean to jump in there, but
But
yeah,
no, I
yeah,
mean that's the problem, is that we think that there's a huge movement, and that's contending that there is a systemic or institutional or structural, foundational, whatever
yeah.
phraseology people are using, and
Well,
it's just not
yeah,
true. It's not true. It isn't true, and the reason it's not true is because, look, in America, as long as you're willing to work hard, put in the work, will you face now? Now, notice what I'm saying. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist.
yeah,
Of course, racism exists. Of course, that's
yeah,
always going to be there. But racism is not built into the system.
yeah,
Police officers, will you have racist police? Of course you're going to have
yeah,
racist police.
yeah,
Of course you're going to have people that just that's their position or whatever. However, that doesn't mean that all police officers are racist, and it
yeah,
definitely doesn't mean that the law says that black people, for instance, need to be restrained and need to be arrested at a higher rate than white people or something like this. That would
yeah,
be a systemically racist law. We talked about Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were a governing institution, a
yeah,
governing methodology in the southern states.
yeah,
That was systemic racism. So if
yep,
you talk
yep,
about systemic racism, that's what it is. That is not the same today. When they had what's called redlining, where
hmm,
banks and mortgage companies would not sell to black people in certain areas.
yeah,
So they would mark off certain areas on the map that they wouldn't sell to black people or to just minorities,
yeah,
right? This is called redlining. This was made illegal. You can't do that anymore.
yeah,
I was watching, my wife sent me a video, I guess it was like going around on Instagram last week. So after we talked about like systemic racism, she's like, hey, someone shared this video on Instagram, and and they're talking about systemic racism. Like, what do
yeah,
you think about it? And one of the main issues with this video is that they're lying to you. They're saying that banks still redline today, and they don't. They can't. It's illegal. Now,
yeah,
are there realtors that will not want to sell to a black person? Well, of course. There's racist
yeah.
realtors. There's racist police officers. There's racist
But
attorneys.
we're talking on the individual level, like a
Of course,
person's own
yes,
personal
yes,
prejudice or race, whatever
yeah.
you want to call it. But as far as like overall, like that's not there anymore.
No,
That's not there anymore.
and Chris, and this is where it really hits home, is that people start talking about racism in the church.
Ooh,
So let me just say this: racism is not in the church.
yeah,
If racism was in the church, then it would be systemic.
yeah,
Racism is not in the church. We have, now listen to what I'm saying before you turn off the podcast, for all those listening. We have racist people that go to our churches.
yes,
And in some unfortunate cases, because they haven't been found out yet, we have some racist people who lead and minister in some of our churches.
yes,
Now, notice how I phrase that. They're not in the church, but they
hmm,
go to our church.
yeah.
They go to our churches. They preach
Listen
at our
very
churches.
carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Listen very carefully.
They're not in the church.
No,
They're lost. They're not saved.
no,
You can't be
no,
racist and
no,
saved.
no.
So they're lost. They're not in the church, but they go to our church. And so as a believer, some people are like, well, they'll get on Facebook and they'll be like, I was at a church and they were racist to me. Like, okay, get over it. First of all, that's the first thing I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Like that's like saying, and then of course they say we're leaving because they're racist. That's like saying, oh, by the way, that's like saying I was at a church and someone offended me, or someone was prideful at that church.
Yeah.
You do realize it's the same thing, right? I keep hearing people say racism's a sin, racism's a sin. Well, so is pride, so is arrogance. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yet you don't leave the church over that. You know what I mean? Like, of course it's a
Yeah.
sin. Of course, and I'm not trying to downplay anyone's experiences, because it's your experience. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that it's not in the church. The church
Yeah.
itself, the Bible is not. If anything, the church is the only answer for
Well,
racism.
let's say this again. The Bible is not racist. Let's realize that.
No.
And and I say that clearly because there is a younger generation that is maybe that are in church that maybe aren't as into the word, but they're hearing a lot of what the world is saying, and so there's that confusion there. Let me make it clear that the Bible is not racism. The common ground for every individual on the earth, where you're at equal playing field, where you are equal, is at the feet of the cross.
Yes.
Okay, and that is that is the only time, the most unifying power in the universe
Yeah.
is Jesus Christ. That's the only way that if you are racism, that's how you're going to combat it. If you have a heavy prejudice against certain groups, then it's going to combat it. The ultimate unifying factor is God. I mean, that is the message of the gospel, that, again, he's no respecter of persons. He looks
Yeah.
beyond color. He looks beyond, background. He looks at the soul, looks at the life. And we have to remember that as Christians. We have to remember that. Let's not be caught up and let's not be so influenced by what we are seeing, we are hearing, and what's in the atmosphere. Okay, let's not forget that. We're dealing with spirits, powers, principalities that are trying to plant ideas in our minds to believe that a certain narrative. No, we are not. We are people of unity, people of love, people of respect.
Yeah.
Here I am, a Hispanic male, Puerto Rican. I think a couple episodes trying to figure out who I am. We have Micah here, um, black,
Careful.
African American. But I'm sorry. I'm Puerto
No,
Rican.
I'm
Yeah.
just
But I know, I
joking.
know, right, I know. Oh my gosh, I did.
I'm black.
No,
Yes.
and then I mean, let's go down the list. Of everybody. I probably don't have a lot of white friends actually. I need more white friends, and so. But we're so diverse. We're so diverse, and that is the beauty of the church. And so we need to bring this gospel to this we
Yeah.
will be praying for this, because that's the only thing that's bring any type of order or balance to this. And
Yeah.
so
What's the
that's my
answer? What's the
that's my
answer?
sneaker preach for the hour. I'm gonna start adding that to the show. My sneaker preach, but that's the truth. And again, Christians, I'm just saying we have to wake up to the reality. Like we are observing this, we are noting this, but do not get caught up in this.
Yeah.
Do not get caught up in this.
And why? And doesn't the scripture say to not be so easily offended? And why do we treat racism so much? We treat it so differently than other offenses.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I can see
I,
what you're saying before about the person being offended about racism, but yet okay with the pride and
yeah,
the hate, but you have a problem with the racism, to where like that's just as bad of a sin as being prideful, arrogant, a
of course,
liar, an
of course,
adulterer.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like, I mean, it's why as Christians, like, the world's the world, and see,
yeah.
this is where I think we are going wrong, is that we're allowing the world to set the pace for us. It's like
Woo! Come
every
on.
time, yeah,
Come
I
on.
think it's true. Every
No,
time
I hear
something
you.
bad happens, Black Lives Matter gets out there, and then we want to respond to it. Why do we need to respond? Why do we need to respond? First of all, racism is a sin. It's always been a sin. Like, do we see it as an issue in the church? Like, again, like, this is the problem. Is racism an issue in the church? If you believe that racism is systemic, then it's an issue, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way. Now,
Yeah.
someone might be able to argue. Now, and this is the key. This is the key. Does everybody have an equal opportunity in the church? Right? So, in other words, in America, the reason I argue that that racism is not institutionalized here in America anymore is because anybody can do anything. For goodness sakes, for all you people that believe that racism is systemic, you do realize that Barack Obama was the president. Like you
We're talking.
right?
We have astronauts. We have president. We have
No, I mean
Congress people. We have
it's
scientists. We have
ridiculous.
across the board. I hear you,
It's
man. I hear
okay.
you.
So here's the thing, but ultimately, I think I mentioned this last week. If you believe that the system's against you, the system is stopping you, whatever system that is, police system, education system, you really believe that, then that gives you a built-in excuse for your failures.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate problem, is that people stop taking responsibility for their own actions.
Wow.
And start pointing. And it happens in the church, and this is why it's important that we drive this point home, is that you getting offended over something at your church doesn't mean it's the church's problem. That's your problem.
Yep.
Now, does that mean that person was justified for calling you a name or whatever that happened to you? And I'm sorry that it happened to you, but don't expect, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say, don't expect me to apologize.
Hold on. Go ahead, say it.
Get the beeper out. Don't expect me to.
Listen, you better get over it right now before. People backslide. Okay, I've mentioned before. I didn't grow up like in the church, and I've come to this point where I've seen people come, people go, and dude, listen, like I'm sorry that you were offended, but dude, suck it up. Jesus is good.
Okay.
Jesus is good, and I'm getting, but it's. I know we're talking about backsliders, but that oh man, like I was hurt and I was offended, and so I'm just gonna like.
There are some, I'm sure, that you have every right to be bitter. Yes. You have every right to do that. But what I'm saying is, like, okay, there's a few things. Don't be easily offended. This is the scripture. The other side of it is when I go on Facebook or whatever, and people are like, the church was the I'm not going to say, well, no, the UPC was racist to me. I was in a UPC church. They were racist to me. Yeah. And then everybody gets on there. They say, oh, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I'm so sorry. And I get why they're doing it. But it's like, wait a second. Why do I have to apologize because someone else was racist to you? Like, why do you assume that the problem is they're doing the same thing that the Black Lives Matter and that all these other groups are doing? They're saying one person or one group of people in the UPC or in that church was racist. Therefore, the entire thing is racist. And that's the problem. That's
Take
so
a minute
wrong.
And get your mind blown right now at this reality.
I don't know.
It's so true. It's so true.
Why should anyone look? You went through a bad thing. It shouldn't have happened. It was a sin. Yeah. We have sinners that go to our church. I'm sorry. Like you're gonna and you know what? If you come back to the UPC church or any church, by the way, it doesn't matter. You're probably gonna see it again. It's probably gonna happen again. And to act like the white cultures are the only ones that are racist, that's just not true. I've met just as many blacks and Hispanics that are even more racist than white people. As a matter of fact, I probably experienced more racism outside of the white culture than I have in the white culture. That's the truth, and I've seen on both sides.
Absolutely. It's
the truth. Like some people, they don't know I'm black. So like one time I got a text message, like in a group chat, and it was about like black people. It was a racist chat. I'm like, and so I respond. I'm like, yeah, I'm black. That's it. It was completely racist. It was like about Barack Obama. Like, why would you think? First of all, why do you think that I would think that's funny, right? I think they didn't mean to add me into this group chat or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, wow. I was like, wow.
Was it like a Western District group chat?
They weren't
probably?
white. No. They weren't white. That's all I'll say on it.
Western District.
It was ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I've seen more of that. But
I know.
What does it mean? Does it mean that we need to burn it down? Does it mean that we need to take it apart? No. What it means is that we have people that are sinners in our churches. They're going to our church.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get their life right, hopefully. And I think that if we end with anything in the terms of like racism, is that we should all just know that it's a sin, and we need to battle it. Like not battle it in the sense of go after it, but preach about it like you preach about everything else. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
why don't you do a series on pride in the church or arrogance in the church?
yeah. You know what? No, more people are falling away or walking away because of pride and arrogance of racism.
Yeah,
You know,
it's true.
and you know what? I just this whole truth is too precious and dear to me to let
Oh yeah,
anybody rob that from me. Don't let people rob that from you.
no,
And there's some really epic situations. Like I know I made a comment. Don't get me started on backsliders. I'm kind of
yeah,
like thinking about that now. But what I'm saying is, I know some of you. I don't know where you're at. Have dealt some really aggressive stuff. I've heard some crazy stories
sure,
about people in the church and coming against some situations. And so, truth is, you tell anybody your story, they're like, "There's no wonder. There's no wonder you walked away."
yeah,
And again, I don't want to pick apart your life and where you're at, but I mean, this stuff's too good to walk away from. This
yeah,
stuff's too good to walk away from. And I know on this show, we do our best to tackle current events. We bring our opinion, our own thoughts with it.
yeah,
But let's not get caught up on all this. Let's realize that the answer to this, the Daily Radicals' answer and stance to the healing of America, is going to be only through Jesus Christ. Can only be through Jesus Christ and coming to the unity. And
that's right.
when we are seeing, and again, this episode is not about prophecy, but we're seeing just such things are being set up, ladies and gentlemen. Things are being set up for something epic. I mean,
Yeah,
we're hitting a breaking point. I mean, if you are, whether you're a conspiracist, whether you're a heavy prophecy follower, whether you're just an everyday average Joe, you can't ignore that things are building up towards something. And it's not just this. I'm not saying this whole breakout and riot, this was it. Things are being set up. And so us as the church, what is our reaction going to be? And I think that's going to be, we're fighting that right now. And something you said earlier is the fact that we're letting the narrative of the world to kind of speak for us. We're believing what the world is saying. Um, we got to be ready for the answer.
right.
Like I said, the church, we need to watch, we need to look, we need to, obviously, you can have your opinion, but we should be preparing for those people when they walk through our doors. And I mean, almost literally, because as things open up and churches get back in the swing of things,
Yeah,
people are looking for answers, people look for hope. Even though you hear such a loud voice of people having their thoughts, their opinions, their writing, I believe there's a greater number of people that are scared,
yeah,
that are looking for answers, looking for hope, looking for healing.
yeah,
And those are the people that we need to be prepared for, and say, hey,
yeah,
listen, you're gonna come to a church, you're gonna meet a people that are not all caught up on the world's narrative. We're not all caught up in having this epic opinion about this issue and that issue. We
right.
are people of the word, people of the spirit, and what you're gonna get is that very thing, Jesus Christ. And
Amen.
so and I feel that is shouting so loudly right now, for God and for God's people and anybody really who will listen. We
No, that's
need
good.
Jesus. We need Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Hey, so if you have yet to subscribe on YouTube, be sure to do that. Follow us on Spotify. Make sure to like the video on YouTube before you check off. And go ahead and ring the bell so you get notified the next time we drop a video. We're so glad
Make
again.
sure you ring the bell.
Yes.
There we go. Hey, Mike, I
um,
want you to tell your sister-in-law I got 7 Up in here.
my sister-in-law.
I want you to tell your sister-in-law. Remember she gave you a hard time for that cherry Coke, like the first
Oh,
episode?
yes, I do. Yeah, I
Tell her if
remember.
she's listening, I'm holding a mug and I got 7 Up in here.
Nice.
I'm
There you
killing
go.
myself right now.
There you go. There
I
you
have
go.
diabetes.
Hey, give me opportunity to share on here. I need permission to share. I have
Okay, right
something.
now. We're working with this, ladies and gentlemen. We're
I
working
have
with this.
something that needs to be shared with the world. Going to our
I think you're good.
all right, going to our weekly Babylon beat. Now, this is good and bad news,
Uh-oh.
but I wanted to share it with you today. Lego introduces a new sharper bricks that instantly kill you when you step on them. This is imperative. Now, first of all, Chris,
Dude.
you're a new dad, so
Lego death. Lego death.
this is something you're going to run into. If you've never stepped on a Duplo Lego in the middle
Duplo.
of the night on your way to the bathroom, it is possibly the greatest pain that you will ever feel in your entire life. I don't know anything that hurts worse than
I
that.
feel
But
like the Lego paint and then stepping on the end of an extension cord or like a plug
oh
is
my
so
goodness,
painful,
it
dude.
is so painful.
Crippling. It's
In,
crippling.
in other news, my wife will be happy to hear about this. A new version of Operation, just as players use essential oils instead of performing a medical procedure. It's more realistic,
I
actually.
like that. I like that.
And you got your lemongrass and hibiscus and all
I,
that, the
I, if,
lavender.
for those
Yeah,
of you who don't see this, like there's the operation little setup they got at the nose, and there's very detailed uh,
it's where all
essential
the
oil
oils
labels for
slim
sore
and
throat, lavender,
slim and
for
sassy. Is that really
for
a
collapsed lung, frankincense.
dude?
Frankincense. So
Dude,
when Jesus was gifted, it's like so Jesus was gifted with essential oils:
basically, they're basically from God.
gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What was myrrh again? Is that like a
Myrrh. Yeah, it's
myrrh?
myrrh. Yeah, I don't,
Myrrh.
I don't know. It's some sort of essential oil. I mean, people swear
The
by
only
essential
guy who
oils.
was actually given a real gift was a good guy gave him the gold. The rest was just like, here,
Oh,
here.
here's some essential oils. No, there are some people. They're a part of. It's pretty cultish, actually. I've seen people that literally believe that essential oils will heal you, like it's in the covenant or something like this. Like,
So we're saying that people who push essential oils could be part of the occult.
pretty much.
I'm never ever gonna rub any avocado, hibiscus, lotion drip on myself ever again.
I mean, and it's expensive. Do you know how expensive those things are? Is your wife
I
into
don't.
essential oils?
No, we're not.
Oh, you should thank God for that.
I'm into heavy doses of aspirin,
So you're addicted to drugs, is what you're saying.
basically.
So you just take the hard stuff.
I just cut. I go right to the end of it. I'm not gonna go through like 3 weeks of essential oil treatment to basically give me the Vicodin. Give me the
Oh my
Vicodin.
goodness, it is something. I mean, like, yeah, yeah. One time, like, whenever I get a cold, like, my wife's like, "Here, just put this on your chest." Like, what is
Oh my
this?
bad. I didn't mean to say that your wife's part of the occult. My
Oh
bad.
no,
I
no,
was
no!
trying.
It's definitely cultish. It's definitely. I mean, I feel
Hey,
like I pray against those spirits on a regular basis.
I feel like here, put some essential oil on. And for those you really being about this, we have a small booklet of words you can say as you're putting essential oils on. You didn't get that? You didn't see that?
No, no. Is that really a thing?
Huh? It
That's a
could
thing.
be. It could
Oh
be.
yes, I think that's a good idea.
It's a thing
And
until you fact check me after this episode.
and incantation. Like when you read it. Well, and they have the diffuser, and you
Incantation.
have to have the diffuser, right? Because that makes it more
Oh,
spiritual.
dude.
It like goes into the air, and it's like a mist. It's the Shekinah glory of
Those of you
essential.
listening, send us some essential oil.
Oh,
We,
I'm
we
sure.
want
Like,
we, those of you listening, we're gonna sample live on the show some essential oil.
no, what they should do is tell us what they use their essential oils for. Because I have a feeling there's people that actually believe this stuff. So tell us what it does. Like, does it like heal blinded eyes and open up deaf ears, or just colds and stuff like that?
Well, Jesus spit in the ground, so that's essential.
It was
Only
essential.
essential oil in my life is motor oil.
What if you have well, I guess electric cars. Do they have a motor? An electric car?
Electric motor.
Electric motor. Does it use oil? Does a Tesla have oil?
I
Do you
don't
have to change the oil in a Tesla?
know. I don't know, and I don't want to look it up right now.
Someone
I
send
want
us
one of you
someone send us
fans.
a Tesla. Someone
One
send
of
us a
you
Tesla.
yeah.
We want to go
Yes, you
test it
can
out.
write it off to a nonprofit.
Send us
Yeah,
it. I want to try
yeah,
it out.
that's exactly what me and Micah are, nonprofits.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we'll leave it up to the fans out there, the viewers and listeners. Yeah, send us the information. Let us know. Do Teslas take oil?
That's an important question because I'm actually getting ready to buy a Tesla in, like,
Are you
50 years.
ready?
50 years or so, I'll probably have one.
Oh, dude, I was like, me you talk all the time. You
No.
never told me. You never
Yeah,
told
yeah,
me
right.
about your
Yeah, right. I
Tesla.
could I can afford that. That sounds like
Oh
something I
my
could
gosh.
afford.
Well, you know what? I mean,
I hear they're getting cheaper. I don't know.
your kids just think about community college for the next 4 years.
Yes, my kids, no, they don't need college. What do you need college
Cybertruck,
for? So yeah, that Cybertruck is legit.
Cybertruck.
I put myself on the waiting list. I'm just kidding. I think you have to have money to do that.
I don't
Don't you have
think
to
it's
like
that much.
pay? Don't you have to like pay like $5,000 or something to get on the waiting list?
I don't know. Fans, tell
Tesla's
us what does it take for me and Micah to get a Cybertruck? You know what? I think we should. Let's do a year. 1 year from now. When's it come out? 2021. They're coming out.
I have
In
no
2 years,
idea.
me and Michael will do a live show from the Cybertruck,
From inside of a Cybertruck
from inside the Daily Radical, inside the Cybertruck.
on the moon.
Yes, the most radical truck out there, the Cybertruck for the Daily Radical.
This is
Radical extreme, extreme.
I think I do like Teslas though, and we talked about Elon Musk.
That guy's tight.
Yeah, we need to do an update on SpaceX, see where everyone's
Dude.
at. Are they at the space station still?
What was that?
Are they still at the space station, I assume?
Yeah, they're still up there. I'm looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now, so we're kind of focused on current events, but
Tons of stuff.
we're gonna have a space episode. I think it should be a 2-parter. I think it's just way too much to do in one episode, but we're gonna do a space episode, and it's gonna be out of this world.
Out of this world. Oh, I saw that one coming. I saw it coming.
We gotta work on sound effects for this thing.
Like,
hey, remember that one
sounds
time we're
not
playing?
good.
I was gonna say shut up, but you know what, Micah?
All right, this thing is going off the rails.
Yes.
I think that's all we got for today. Chris is, you know what? I've had enough of this. It's not there. It's
Micah,
not
how
there.
could you say that to me? Anyway,
Hey, that's the show today.
that's it.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for downloading. If you are on YouTube, one more time, be sure to subscribe, like the video, ring the notification bell, everything you do.
Yeah.
Over on Spotify. Follow us on Spotify.
Follow us. You know one thing, Micah, we're saying?
Yeah.
If you look at like those who are who are really into podcasts, I mean, some of these shows are like show 100 and something, show something.
Yes.
So why am I saying that? We're on show 13 right now. This show, I think it's episode 13. Those of you who are listening, stay with us.
Yeah.
Stay with us from the very beginning, from the
miles
genesis
and
of it
miles to
all.
go.
We got miles to go.
Yes.
And maybe one day me and Mike will be in the same room.
Maybe. We'll see.
But the question will be, will we be wearing
with our masks? As long as Chris has a mask on, then we're all good.
No. I have no good argument, but no. Anyway.
All right. Until next time.
Thank
you for coming. Thank you for showing us some love here. Again, be sure to subscribe. This is the Daily Radical. I'm Micah. That's Chris. We'll see you guys next time.
Guys, take care.